Well, for more on this story, we are now joined by Bilal Y. Saab, who is the Senior Managing Director of Trends US, which provides analysis and advice on defence and security issues relating to the US and to the Middle East. You have a very illustrious CV, too many significant roles for me to mention here, but you have written and advised extensively on this, and you have worked formally in the Pentagon. So thank you very much for joining us here on Around the World. We are just hearing Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, centre-left newspaper, is quoting Iranian sources saying that there is the Israeli Security Cabinet is to convene and that there is talk of a possible ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. I'm kind of throwing that at you straight away. I mean, do you have an initial reaction to that?
Okay, I mean, that's certainly progress, because that wasn't the understanding following the talks that happened yesterday in Washington. I think that the Israelis had communicated that they were insisting on, striking Hezbollah wherever it was, although with the promise to the Americans that they would try to sort of shield Beirut and tone down their attacks on state infrastructure. So if this is a new development, obviously it's a nice confidence-building measure that could very much enable future negotiations between the two sides.
Okay, well, we'll move on to talk about other things. I gather the source of that quoted in Haaretz was an Iranian source, so it sounds as though Iran is perhaps exerting some sort of pressure for at least a very temporary one-week ceasefire on the Hezbollah side. That, of course, will be related to the much wider question. To go back to more specifics, you've written quite a lot about how you think the Lebanese government and the current Lebanese government is within the spectrum and relative to history, a fairly pro-US, a fairly pro-reform government. They're quite amenable, definitely appear to want Hezbollah disarmed and to end this problem of Hezbollah and its sort of parasitic nature on Lebanon. You've talked about some of the steps you think could be taken to begin to do that. Would you like to expand on that for us?
Yeah, happy to. I would start off by saying that this is first and foremost a pro-Lebanon government before it is pro any other external party, right? And certainly committed to the process of reform, as treacherous, as imperfect as it may be. But I don't think we've had a government like this that is championing all the right ideals and that is committed to all the right things for a very long time. Okay, I mean, the thorny problem of Hezbollah is not going to be solved overnight, as you very much know. I think this is going to be a long and winding road, but it's all about showing some credibility to first the Lebanese people and then to international stakeholders, most notably, obviously, Israel, that they are committed to disarming the group. So a bunch of measures that they could pursue without, blowing up the entire country and without it leading to a return to civil war. And they have the mandate for it. Let's just remember that this government didn't just get parachuted from, the skies, and that they were actually elected by the Lebanese people. Therefore, they have a popular mandate to pursue the issue of the disarmament of Hezbollah, to which they committed through several United Nations Security Council resolutions, in addition to the latest ceasefire between the Israelis and the Lebanese. I think, I don't want to take too long of your time, but there's various political, military, and financial measures that the Lebanese government can institute to, I would call it, make it as difficult as possible for Hezbollah to operate, right? So it doesn't have to be a violent clash between the Lebanese army and Hezbollah that would lead to disarmament. I think that would sort of be catastrophic, frankly, for Lebanon as a whole. But a lot of measures, legal, legitimate, that the Lebanese government can pursue to just make life miserable for Hezbollah, right? Outlawing its financial activities, deploying the army in Beirut, and especially in its southern suburbs where Hezbollah has a stronghold, considering kicking the ministers out of the cabinet. I mean, why would you want to be in the cabinet if you're a Hezbollah minister and you're calling this government a government that is committing treason simply by talking to the Israelis? It just doesn't make any sense. And then also just with all the I would say the financial arm of the organization that are just quite deep in the country, there's just a number of measures that the Lebanese government can pursue to make it as difficult as possible for Hezbollah to utilize the black market and to finance its activities. That just requires bold leadership, okay? And let's just not kid ourselves. And it requires a good bit of patience also, because once again, this is a deeply rooted organization that has, whether we like it or not, representation from the majority of the Lebanese Shiite constituency. A minority in the Lebanese society, but a majority in the Shiite constituency. So it's, long story short, long and winding road.
Just on that point of, you were saying they could kick out the two ministers. I know I've read what you were saying, and they could be replaced by two other Shia representing ministers. That would be well within the constitution, I think you mentioned before. On that issue of, you say the Lebanese army could keep them out of southern Lebanon. I know the Lebanese army is much unlike many other institutions in Lebanon. It does have a kind of general backing from the population. Does it include many Shia soldiers? How would that work? Because you said you didn't want a clash between, or you didn't think a clash would work between the Lebanese army and Hezbollah in southern Lebanon.
It is a cross-sectarian army for sure. That is the very makeup of the entire, Lebanese system, Lebanese society. So certainly there is representation in the army from the Shiite community. Look, I mean, if the army is not going to do anything really substantive related to Hezbollah's disarmament, then why the hell does Lebanon have an army, right? If there's a militia group that is endangering civil peace and that is dragging the country into another conflict with Israel.
But they have failed to do so far.
They have failed to do that because of a number of reasons. One, insufficient political leadership, and also the lack of capabilities, which we have to acknowledge. I would agree with you 100%, which is why I've always been an advocate for, and I've worked on it during my time in the Pentagon, for greater U.S. military assistance to the Lebanese that would enable them to pursue gradually, incrementally, this very difficult mission of Hezbollah's disarmament. With the current means, with the current funding that they have, it is virtually impossible for them to really make serious progress on the issue of disarmament.
Okay, you've talked a little bit then about the US, how the US could help this, particularly with greater funding. We've been hearing here in France, France has a historic, obviously, connection with Lebanon. It formerly controlled Lebanon after getting a League of Nations mandate and has continued to be very interested in Lebanon. Yesterday, the Israeli ambassador to the US came out of talks and said very clearly that Israel would not appreciate any role for France in any negotiations between Israel and Lebanon. I don't know if you heard it. I think we can listen to the clip right now.
Well, I hope we won't have to make a concerted effort, but we certainly don't want the French anywhere near these negotiations. We'd like to keep the French as far away as possible from pretty much everything, but particularly when it comes to peace negotiations. They're not needed. They're not a positive influence, particularly not in Lebanon.
What do you make of that? What kind of role do you think France would have a positive role? Do you think he's right? They would have not a positive role?
Let's be clear that the Israelis have no trust in the French role in Lebanon. They feel that the French are a little bit too pragmatic when it comes to their influence and their interest in Lebanon, and that they are far more sympathetic to the plight of Hezbollah than obviously the Americans. There's a reason why the Israelis don't trust the French role in Lebanon, and they're obviously far more sympathetic to the American influence and to the American role because there seems to be sufficient alignment between these two. I wouldn't go as far as to say that the French play no role that can be positive in Lebanon. I think that there's a lot that the French diplomacy can offer to the Lebanese, be it backing certainly the current talks between the two sides, contributing to some kind of a conference that would also provide funding for the Lebanese army. So I wouldn't go as far as to say that the French have no role that could be positive to be played in Lebanon.
Do you think the Lebanese have asked for the French to play a role in these talks?
Even if they have, I think that they're putting all their eggs in one basket, and that's Washington. Sorry,
I didn't hear. Sorry. Let's talk instead about the role of China. We've been hearing a lot, about cooperation between China and Iran, and in some cases in that Financial Times report today saying that Iran had secretly used Chinese equipment. Where does China sit in this Iran-US-Israel war at the moment, do you think? Particularly with what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz, what role might they play or choose not to play?
Sure. I don't know if the audio failed before, but I was just saying that even if the Lebanese had asked for French, assistance in any way, I think they're putting all their eggs in one basket, and out of that is Washington. So just in case you were not able to hear that. Okay, look, on the Chinese, it's always been pretty clear what their interests are in the Middle East. Obviously, freedom of commerce and navigation, which not only benefits the Chinese, but the international economy as a whole. They import a ton of oil from that part of the world, so they have a vested interest, obviously, in opening the Strait of Hormuz. But beyond that, what they can actually do, obviously, they have veto powers in the United Nations Security Council, so they can play a very either positive or negative role when it comes to international diplomacy and multilateral diplomacy. Can they provide military assets to open the strait? This is not their MO. This is not what the Chinese do. They are always in favor of diplomacy, a very neutral sort of role to play, because it's such a far away region from, China, where the top priority, frankly, lies obviously elsewhere in East Asia and in the Indo-Pacific. They're not going to commit more diplomatic and military resources to that part of the world. I think the Chinese are going to continue to emphasize, frankly, diplomacy, be it through the UN or something more multilateral.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your ideas with us, Bilal Y. Saab. We have run out of time now, sadly. Thank you so much indeed for sharing your thoughts here on France 24 Around the World.